ANC conference will be expected to take decisions on. As you would know, in the middle of the year, towards the end of June, we will have a policy conference wherein we will be looking at our policies, adjusting, introducing probably other things on a number of things. That is what should be preoccupying the ANC membership and leadership. But of course, as you know, people at times are very keen to make the choices. It's a democratic right. But generally, we wouldn't want to engage on that long before conference. As you can see, if this is January. December is very far. We've got a lot to do that we've got to be doing. But as you know, there has been, in a sense, murmurings about this issue for a long time. Even last year already we were saying no, let us not do it. To those who are making kind of pronouncements, we are still saying no, this is not the moment to do so.
Is that sign of ill discipline?
To a large extent, but not necessarily, because this time the year has started and people are feeling we need to be doing something, partly because lobbying, making proposals and everything is not prohibited in the ANC. All we are saying, the timing of it is important, that we should, particularly if the leadership is saying, let us not do it. But I'm sure in this case, one of the difficulties is that at times some of the colleagues or comrades who are in the leadership, they have also made some pronouncement, which makes it very difficult. So that you can't say to all our structures only. That's why we keep on saying no, even to those who are senior. Please, this is not the time. We'll keep on doing so as a leadership to ensure that this is kept under control. Just to complete your question whether the ANC or the country is ready for a woman president, I think it is. You would know that the ANC has led the charge insofar as promoting the empowerment of women, and they are in very key leaderships in outside of the government, within government. In the ANC, this is no longer the issue, really. It has been accepted that they can hold any other kind of position, so that is not an issue at all. That's why no one is talking about that. In the ANC, that's no longer the issue. The issue, of course, I'm sure particularly the women, as you know, even when we went to Polokwane in 2007, the issue had already arisen that they needed, at the top 6, very important position should be held by a woman. At that time, I think they were looking at the deputy president, which was in itself a new kind of thing. So that issue is there.
If you allow me to come in there, Mr. President, even at the time Dr. Dlamini Zuma came, the proposal was for the deputy president of the party,
yes,
which was not or did not happen at the time.
Yes.
Now, every time you hear this thing, you'll correct us, because I'm sure many people here in this country and maybe abroad will know that you are the working encyclopedia as far as the ANC history is concerned. Every time people say, but the tradition says the deputy president must become the president of the party. Help us to understand that. Is it so, or it's a position that anyone, any nomination or anybody who is nominated could contest?
Anyone who's nominated could contest. There's no policy.
So it's not true? It's
not true that it is a tradition. People say, because it has happened on a number of occasions, that those who have been a deputy president, they become president. If, for an example, you take, since the unbanning of the ANC, as you know, when President Tambo was no longer able, through the health, to continue, President Mandela, who had become the deputy of President Tambo, he then naturally became the president. Thereafter, at that time, the deputy president, Sisulu, who had come in because there was going to be a bit of a contestation of the younger generation than them in the conference, because this is always allowed by anyone. And I think many comrades felt we did not need that kind of contestation at that time, and therefore the proposal that Tata Sisulu should become a deputy president of the ANC was done and agreed. But as you know, he had been the deputy president to President Mandela. So it did not automatically, because he has been, then he had to become a president. So that is just a feeling that people say, well, it has happened to one or two, why not? It's a way people motivate for the names they would want. Thereafter, of course, Mbeki became the deputy president to Mandela. And at that time, once that he became the deputy president to Mandela, Zuma became the national chairperson that Thabo had been. There was just a coincidence of a period, and it kind of caters that, in a sense, they've been following one after the other, that Zuma also became the president. As you know, that in itself, there was a contestation between the president and the deputy president, which is not like a culture, but it tells you that democratically, there is nothing that says once you are a deputy president is then a foregone conclusion, because there has been contestation even at that point. Even in Mangaung, as you know, quite a number of people, I think there are about 3 comrades who were contesting for this position. So I'm just saying it's not a policy. It's not even like an accepted tradition as such. It has just happened that at a given time, certain people with the kind of understanding from other comrades felt, well, this one could follow, etc. So that is not is a statement that people just make, not because it is true.
Being orphaned at an early age propelled him to better heights.
When I was 16, my mother passed away, and I had no choice then to find work, and I had to juggle work between work and school. I've worked on different coffee shops, and eventually in 2012, I started my own business called Potchefstroom.
Laying good business acumen since childhood nurtured her good standing.
I happened to grow up in a family where my father is a businessman. And as a businessman, he used to have lots of friends from different parts of the world. Business, you need to be committed. You need to live it. You need to love it. You need to be there, at the moment.
For more inspiring stories, stay tuned to Bupilong every Friday.
Failure to implement the water restriction is going to make the system not workable. For the domestic use, everyone should not exceed 25 kiloliters per day.
What is the penalty, and how much have you raked in thus far as a municipality?
For domestic users, if they exceed 25 kiloliters, then they're going to be charged a penalty on their monthly bill. And so far, already we've collected 1.7 million.
The 200 million rand state-of-the-art school in Magaliesburg has been vandalized by drug addicts. How bad is it?
It's very bad. Into the hostel residents, it was even worse because there the doors, the wardrobes, the beds, the ceiling were broken down. Showers were ripped off, and it couldn't be used by students who are actually using that particular boarding facility.
Your Excellency, given the explanation on the succession of the party, would you then accept a nomination for a 3rd term?
No, not me. I'm not going to accept it. I've been saying that all the time. I've done my 2 terms. Again, this is an understanding that emerged within the ANC that much as there isn't a constitutional point, the practice that has emerged since we are now in government, and therefore the president of the ANC has happened that would become the president of the country. I think the correct feeling has been, which I share, you can't say when you have a president of the ANC who is the president of the country, the president of the ANC must also, these two must exist parallel. Because if that is the case, you are creating a kind of two centers of power that could, in a sense, compete in one form or the other. As you know, the ANC is a ruling party. Its policies have got to be implemented by the government. You would actually be saying the president of the ANC must instruct the president of the country. And at times, there may be things that happen that as a president of the ANC feeling, look, is it the right or whatever. So we generally had an understanding that it would not be good to create two centers. We did not think we needed for that to have a very explicit provisional kind of clause in the Constitution. I think it's an understanding that really it would be good that these leaders have that kind of an understanding that you need this movement, the ANC, to operate smoothly as well as the government.
Is there a need, do you think, that there has to be some kind of a guidance in terms of policies from the party that the behavior has to be guided this way?
I think so. I think history, the recent history has actually shown that you need that, just to guarantee that there isn't any other problem. If this has been an agreement, and one day, because, I mean, people you don't know, somebody might say, look, there is no constitutional provision, this is what I need, I think I should do. As a guide, I think it would be a good kind of thing to happen. But that depends on the ANC, whether it thinks its leaders have reached a point where they cannot sit within the understanding. But just in case, it might be a useful thing to do.
The discipline in the party, you've always, almost in all the speeches, you've mentioned the discipline in the party or lack thereof. And it's continuing. You should be worried as the leader of the party and the collective of the ANC. What are you doing with it?
Definitely, the issue of discipline within the ANC is a big issue, because we would want cadres, members of the ANC who are disciplined, who are able to do things according to the dictates of the principles and the values of the ANC. So we always get worried if there is some slips in terms of discipline. So that is a worry. We need to have discipline. ANC is an old organization, is 105. The ANC has, for these years, led the struggle in this country. It has really demonstrated the discipline in different periods, when it was operating openly, when it was operating clandestinely, and when it is in government. We believe that that's an important principle to be followed. Because if there is no discipline, then you have a problem. And you need to even be a good example to society. So that is worrying. If from time to time there are violations of the discipline, we would want to ensure that all members of the ANC adhere to the discipline of the ANC. That has been the culture of the ANC. And that we would want a cadre to be differentiated from other political groupings by the manner in which they conduct themselves as ANC kind of cadres. So that's what I would say. So we get concerned if that is the case.
What was, the week like in terms of CITES?
I saw there was a news insert about there being genetically engineered sort of rhino horns that have been introduced now. And then that has sort of now been rejected. They're saying that it's sort of going to promote poaching as per se.
The concern that's been raised by law enforcement in that particular regard has been that how do you distinguish between the original and the fake?
Yes.
Because it's going to make it difficult to police.
The rhino horn is the same quality as the nail. If you want something from the rhino horn, just cut your nail and do whatever. What was most striking for me was how the pangolin came into the picture. That was interesting for me because a few years ago in Zimbabwe, if you found a pangolin and you handed it over, you would have an audience with the president.
Wow.
Yeah, and you would be given a certain amount of money. And once that program started, almost every week there was somebody who was getting an audience with the president.
Children's rights and health are a priority in the journey of good health.
All children should have access to adequate health care, not only curative but preventative as well.
How to identify ADHD on children.
ADHD is a childhood disorder which manifests with the symptoms of hyperactivity, impulsivity, and or inattention.
Is breastfeeding still a vital nutrition to babies even today?
Breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life is absolutely crucial.
Catch Health Talk with Dr. Cyril every Saturday from 9 till 10 a.m.
Your Excellency, we're living in a world of instant judgment. You've just painted a picture of lack of discipline within the party and how you would wish the cadres and the comrades to behave. Now, the society has, in one or the other, suggested by their votes in recent elections that there is something they are unhappy about within the party. Is there a strategic plan to get back on the way, so to speak?
Of course, yes. Clearly, we also accepted the fact that the going down of the supporters seen in the vote, the percentage, that worried us because although we were able to sit back and analyze and really identify where the difficulties have been, one of them was the manner in which some cadres operated in the areas where they were, and we've taken a decision that it has to be corrected by us. We accepted that might be some of the things that our supporters did not like, and we must correct it. There's no doubt about it. We think that message by the voters was very clear, that there's something they did not like. We've identified that, and some have said so. For an example, some have said, look, the manner in which we've been arguing internally as the organization, they did not like it. In some cases, people were sort of doing things their own way, wanting their own views to be heard, not other views, at times not even adhering to some organizational dictates in terms of how to behave in certain circumstances, and we are dealing with all of that. For an example, the manipulation of the lists, etc. We have sent teams to deal with the matter.
But
and
Your Excellency, this has been going on for, well, this year it will be 3 years since Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma chaired the before we even went to Mangaung. After that, there was that Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma report. We had it been implemented? What did we find out in the study thereof? And how do we make sure that things that are being voiced by ordinary members of the society and ordinary members of the party are being listened to by the leadership of the party?
we certainly listened to. The very fact that we established the Nkosazana Commission was because we listened to the complaints that came from the membership as well as from the ordinary members of society. And we then, the commission made findings and recommendations, which a large part of it were implemented, and we also used it politically to indicate to the membership that that kind of behavior was not good at all. When we went to the elections, we were also saying these are the issues. In some areas, we must have lacked in terms of implementing the recommendations, but by and large, we did. Now, because we also, I must say, adjusted the manner in which we should handle those issues, and we did. We issued directives, what is going to happen. For an example, we said the communities should also participate in identifying the kind of councillor they would want, so that the councillor is also accepted and indeed approved by the community. And that's what we did. We had put measures, but the manner in which the manipulations happened, it is clear that we were not successful in making that to happen. We are taking further measures now that we are going to enforce this very forcefully. Whoever acts in a particular way, there's going to be very clear recourse of what must happen, so that it should not happen at all. So we have noticed that, we kept it, but it came in a different kind of direction, and we have taken decisions at the leadership level that will deal with this manipulation, because it is not good for the party, therefore not good for the support of the party, as well as for wrong people to be identified. We even learned that some were manipulating those that are supposed to be identified by the community, find a way to make it happen that the community supports the kind of person they would have wanted. So we are more aware now as to what is happening, and we've been working on the measures how to prevent it from happening.
What are the plans to grow the economy? Projection this year is 0.8%, which is nowhere near enough, I would think.
Of course, yes. I think the important point to take into account when it comes to the economy is that since 2008, the economy globally has never performed very well. Other countries had more difficulties. South Africa as well had its own share to that one. So it is not just the factors within the country. External factors, of course there would be internal factors. We have tried all the time as a country to navigate the situation as much as possible. Naturally, that meant that the slowdown in the growth of the economy, unlike when it had been predicted, it meant that therefore the employment suffered. So to speak, there were more unemployed people because the economy was moving very slow. We've been working hard. We have had discussions between business, labor, and government, and in other cases in civil society, to say what can we do together to ensure that we are able to cushion the kind of economic impact that has been made. And this is what we've been doing. We have, for an example, agreed that we need to grow the economy. We need to work hard to grow it in an inclusive fashion. We discussed this a great deal year before last, wherein we even identified, because we said, what are the issues that will make the economy to grow?
The question around military veterans, the bursaries thereof, the civil servant who was injured on duty, and the issue of succession?
Yeah, well, I'm sure the issue of succession, I had answered it earlier, that ANC is a democratic organization. Any person who is a member in good standing and other comrades propose that person to become a president, he has a right. Whether he has been the deputy president or not, it's not an issue. And that's what was happening. What I was dealing with was an issue where people say it is a tradition that once a deputy president to become the president. That's not true. Although it has happened before, not because it is dictated by policy. It has happened because those people who might have come one after the other, they sort of fitted the kind of thing.
So it was just an accident of history?
Accident of history.
There was also a question from a listener, Monare, from Limpopo, talking about the military veterans.
Military veterans.
The beneficiaries from the bursaries, apparently it's not as it's supposed to be.
Well, I have come across some of concerns and complaints, as he's putting it, which means there are some difficulties at some other points. I would also be happy if the listener would also convey that message very specifically so that I could check with the department. We have a department that is dealing with it. We also have the association, the MKMVA, so we could check as to what are the difficulties. I have been aware some of them we have attended in the past, but of course there will always be such concerns and complaints. So I would be happy if that information is also relayed to my office.
Africa remains in the grip of a dry spell. It's led to water restrictions imposed across the country. About 20,000 cubic centimeters are being released per second. Authorities say that it could take 10 days. In the meantime, they're appealing to residents to use water sparingly. Transnet says that it's increased its revenue despite the weak economic conditions affecting volumes that it handled.
The company says going forward it will be investing in mergers and acquisition opportunities to expand Transnet services. It says while it does not believe South Africa will be downgraded, it has however begun negotiations with lenders to prepare for any eventualities.
Queen Masinade led Remembrance Sunday celebrations in the capital of Lesotho, Maseru.
This is the Makwanyane Square. It is a monument established to pay tribute to Basotho soldiers who fought and died in the two world wars.
Lesotho played a key role supporting British forces during the war.
Use of intravenous drugs such as heroin are on the rise on the Cape Flats. That's according to employees of a local drug treatment facility, the Sultan Bahu Center.
The facility treats 132 people on a daily basis through its community-based program.
I don't say the area is bad, it's how the drugs is so bad.
So we are saying to them, if you have that issue, come to us, contact us.
Excellency, I stopped you earlier on when we were taking callers. The issue of the rating agencies, should we regard them as the enemy of the country?
Now, the rating agencies rate everyone in the world. There's no country they have not rated.
But would you say they were specifically hard on us?
No. I think the issue, I answered this question at some point in Parliament, wherein I gave a list of countries that they've been, in a sense, a rating in different directions. I think what here in South Africa, where people were not used to this kind of thing, and of course the the focus and concentration which they made in terms of the South Africans, it sounded like there is a concentration on the country, but this is their job. Because in South Africa, we raise things, we talk too much. That's why they pay more attention. I think our very being so vocal, in a sense, called the attention, because naturally in other countries, they would look for economic kind of conditions. But if there is a lot of talk, they think there is some discussions that they feel they are sort of impacting on the economy. Of course, that will, in a sense, call them.
But did we play into their hands if, following Brexit, the government of the United Kingdom was downgraded a notch? Are we too apprehensive whenever the word rating agencies is being mentioned?
Of course, there is no country that wants to be downgraded in particular. And that's why any country will be apprehensive to say, look, what is it that we may not be doing right? And I think we did a lot of work to check every other aspect of our economy. And that's why we're in a position to answer questions, but also to say what is it that we are planning to do, so that they should see that even if there were difficulties, but we knew what we were doing and we had plans of what we were doing. And that's why they kept on coming and were able to explain. And what I think was also important in our case was that then when they came, they were able to talk to all sectors. It was not just the government only. Business, the workers, we spoke in one voice. And I think they found that all of us, we were in a better position to understand the difficulties and what we were doing to address those difficulties. So with us, it was fine. Our economy had gone into some difficulties. And of course, as I say, there were a number of things that attracted the attention of the rating agencies. And they will always do so. And we are not regarding them as the enemy. This is a job they do. We regard them as instruments that is used anyway. There's no country that is not rated or downgraded or graded upward if they're doing very well. It is their job. But of course, there was such a focus on us here. As I say, one has been thinking, was it because we are too vocal on matters? And that caught their attention? I don't know.
Your Excellency, Alfred in Mamelodi was asking whether, is it a concern? I would think this one would be within the Zuma household if Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma becomes the next president. Of course, it's the decision of the party, but the listener wanted to know if is that a concern. And the other one, Bafana, was talking about unemployment in Kusile. I would imagine that he's referring to the fact that other people elsewhere are getting employment there and their local people are not being employed. He touched on the issue of land that I hope we'll have time to touch on, because you also touched on it in your January 8 statement. But he says that the farmers in that area, commercial farmers, I would think, he mentioned white farmers, are not allowing them to own cattle. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. If I start with the last one now, which was the first one earlier, well, the issue of unemployment is the issue that we were talking about. It is a problem, a challenge to everyone. But if you talk about Kusile, the impression would have been that if we establish a power station there, the local people should benefit from getting employment because there are different types of employment that emerges once we've got such a company. If then he had said they've employed not a single one, to be a big matter. But the issue of some people being employed and some being not employed is an issue that it will be difficult to say to the company, employ everyone, because they work on the rescue or whatever. But I understand, because the issue of unemployment is a national challenge because of the economy. And I wish Kusile has taken those matters quite seriously, so that it does not look like it's discriminating against the local people. I think it has employed a lot of local people. Perhaps my brother there is one of those who did not become lucky. Must keep on trying. But of course, one would raise the issue generally with the department that there was a call that came from that area where Gusile is being done. So the matter will be raised. But I think having gone there once or twice, I found a lot of local people working. So it's a question of perhaps that you can't employ everyone, maybe. With regard to the issue of whether if Nkosazana became the president, is that not a concern to the family? Not at all. Nkosazana has been struggling. Even before she was a Zuma, she was struggling from her student days. She has grown in the struggle. She has held a number of positions. She has been a minister in a number of other what you call. There's no question at all. If the ANC says, we think we can give you this responsibility, and she agrees, that's not a concern at all. Not at all, insofar as the Zuma family is concerned.
Yeah, the last issue I think we will refer to the provincial government in the northwest, unless if you, of course you...
No, that's what I wanted to say. I think she said she hadn't approached the premier, and I think we should help facilitate the fact that the authorities in the province attend to the matter. I think if we could just try to do that, I would be very happy.
In the last 2 years, the higher education has been going through a very tough time. It was here in Pretoria where you addressed the student. You even set up the commission, which of course we'll still to hear about the recommendations later on. But in a couple of weeks, well, some universities have begun to register students. Is there a fear that what we saw in the last 2 years would happen again? Because the government is saying that we would help you, but the students are saying, no, we don't need help. We don't want to pay.
Absolutely true that for 2 years now, the matter has become a matter for national interest. You will recall that shortly after this happened last year, I called a joint meeting with the leadership of the universities, as well as the leadership of students, as well as the department responsible for higher education, where we had a long discussion. I heard what the students were saying and what the universities were saying, as well as the department. That led me to establish the commission to look at what can be done to address this matter. And of course, you'll recall that there's been also some initiative taken by the department. The commission is supposed to report in the few months' time. It has been working on the matter. There has been a number of initiatives. What is critical is that we are involved in the process of solving the problem. And I think that should be understood by everybody, that the government did not sit back. Part of the reason we established a commission because we wanted a thorough job being done to arrive at a solution. And that commission was supposed to consult with different stakeholders, and there has been extensive consultation. As we move now, there's an understanding that the commission could not work quick enough because of the involved kind of issues, so that by 2017 it would have reported. The government is taking measures insofar as that one is concerned for the coming year, but we are saying that by the time we finish 2017, we should have a permanent solution.
But does our economy, even at the best of times, would it allow us to have a free education?
Well, that will depend how people or the research itself goes. What we have said from the government point of view, and this is a policy we have had for decades, that there should be free education. Initially, the Freedom Charter was saying those who come from the poor background, they will be given bursaries, etc., on merits.
It was also specific that it has to be a primary education, but higher education must be paid for. That's what the Freedom Charter says.
No, insofar as, but the poor ones must get bursaries on merits.
Yeah.
That's what it says
on
higher education. We have gone beyond that, because on higher education, we have introduced a bursary scheme, NSFAS, which is no longer looking at the merits. It is looking at the situation of the students, and we've been increasing the fund so that we are dealing with that. Insofar as basic education, there are no fee schools, which then says we are implementing the policy in terms of free education. Insofar as basic education, I don't think there are difficulties. But once it came to the higher education, that's when we're looking at the students that were poor, that could not manage. And I think even the protest started from that point of view, although at the end it was that it must just be free to everybody else.
Okay.
These are matters that are being looked at, because you can't, for an example, say a child of a president who's working must have a free education. How are you going to maintain schools, etc.? These are matters that have been canvassed in the process of the commission that has taken place. And we are therefore saying, even 2017, we would have measures to address the issue, since the report is not yet out, so that we don't have a crisis. So that is what we are saying. We should all understand that government must take some responsibility to ensure that whilst there is still a gap, we are able to take care of that gap until the matters are concluded and there will be a final kind of resolution of the problem.
Your Excellency, in closing, the state capture has captured the country last year. Well, the news around the state capture. Are you going to ask for a review?
Well, that is what I've done insofar as the report that was produced by the public protector. I think I could only answer the question with the fact that I've made it known that I'm taking the report to review. There are a lot of weaknesses in the report. And since the report is going to the review, I can't go into much details, except to admit that, yes, I've taken the report for a review. It was quite a very funny kind of way of making a report as I looked at it. The report has no finding, for an example, specifically, but the report is there, the report is talking. So,
do you think it was rushed?
That is my impression. That is my impression, because, for an example, later on, the public protector said I needed to answer questions, which she did not say at the beginning. And she wanted me to answer questions, not being prepared to answer those questions. I thought it was unfair, because if she wanted, she would have come. But she was leaving the office, and I thought the reports are not about individuals, they're about the office. And the office was there. They could have still advanced the kind of questions if they wanted to. So there are a number of issues that would have made me to feel I needed to review this one, mainly because it mentioned my name as well, without findings that were found this on you. They, for an example, they said, we want to ask you questions about your son, who is part of the company that they were dealing with. Even then, when they were coming to ask questions, some questions including that one, I think it was a little bit unusual the way it was done, and that's why we thought we should take it to a review.
Your Excellency, all the best this year.
Thank you very much. All the best also to yourselves.
And to our listeners.
And to our listeners as well.
And to the country as a whole.
As to the country as a whole. Thank you very much.
Raleboga.
Thank you very much.
Young girls crossing our borders often find themselves alone in the big city of Johannesburg.
I came here when my pregnancy was 6 months.
Like many other girls from Zimbabwe, Abigail found her way here to the Central Methodist Church.
My friend who was raped, who was forced to have sex, at the church.
I insisted that this needed to be handled with the police.
I think you don't have rights. You do what you don't want to do and you'll be forced.
Any refugee in a strange country is vulnerable to forms of abuse and manipulation.
I don't have any option. I can just continue to put the guys so that I can take care of my baby.
There may be associated problem with the arteries of the heart in patients with hypertensive heart disease, and in some instances it's just pure the muscle disease problem. The statistics show us that half the population of individuals with high blood pressure are not even aware that they've got high blood pressure.
There's the amount of salt we eat, because there's a big influence on our blood pressure levels. So using less salt when you're cooking, less salty spices when you're cooking, not adding salt at the table, but rather using other spices and herbs to flavor your food. And then of course how much sugar you eat is also very important.
If you start becoming uncomfortable, or where you feel that your effort tolerance is becoming less, you can't lie flat, you run short of breath, you start swelling in the legs and so on, it's high time that one should consult a doctor.
Join Health Talk every Saturday for all your health news.
18 of South Africa's celebrities were battling it out for 40 grand at the 5th annual Celebrity Cook-Off in Witbank.
We look forward to welcoming everybody to Emlahleni because this is the place of coal.
For a starter, I'll give you guys 45 minutes to prepare, and the main course will be 1 hour 30 minutes.
The team name is Nkosazana, the clever choices. Yes! Maniora, pizza.
3 Michelin stars.
Yes!
Like at least 2. Drum roll!
Swami and the defending champion the Michelin star!
That's Trends Travel every Sunday, 12 to 1 p.m. on SABC News.
Bird Island is part of a group of 4 islands and is an important breeding place for marine bird species. They are classified as important bird areas with good reason.
Bird Island is so named for the largest gannetry in the world. We have over 110,000 breeding pairs of gannets, Cape gannets on Bird Island. We also have a very healthy and stable population of the African penguins. As we know, the African penguin is critically endangered. Populations throughout all the colonies have been decreasing for the last 15 years. And today, sadly, we have less than 2% of the original population left. At the Elephant National Park, with the 7 islands that we manage close to 50% of the total population of penguins in South Africa. Here on Bird Island, we have just under 3,000 breeding pairs. Whilst at St. Croix, which is the largest penguin breeding colony in South Africa, we have just under 7,000 breeding pairs of penguins.
The decline here is similar to declines at all other African penguin colonies, and urgent conservation action is needed. Although a marine protected area was proclaimed around Bird Island to protect important marine resources, more needs to be done.
We only have a small marine protected area already declared at the moment, which is the surrounding area here on Bird Island. It's only about 7 kilometers squared, so it's very small. So we have been working towards a much larger MPA for the last 10 years. And essentially we're looking to conserve the northern half of Algoa Bay. Algoa Bay is a very special place. It's one of the most biodiverse areas along the South African coast. So we're looking to protect obviously the very threatened and endangered penguin, but also other overexploited species like lionfish and abalone. I think it's important for us to conserve the whole ecosystem. Just as you would like to see rhino and lion and kudus in a terrestrial park, you want to see this and conserve the same thing in the sea. So you want to have all your top predators like your sharks and your penguins, and then also your things like whales and fish. You want to make sure that the ecosystem is whole when you conserve and protect it.
The natural resources of these islands have been exploited ever since the arrival of the 1820 British settlers. Prior to the settlers, ships from various nations supplemented their rations with eggs and birds from the islands. With all the resources and knowledge to our disposal today, there is no reason for us not to protect this critical habitat.
When cell phones get cut off, people say Mdluli was listening. Who are you?
We have to approach Dennis Breitenbach, who was the prosecutor by then.
The DA parliamentarian?
That's correct. The one who was making halabaloo about me.
There are allegations here that you abused the slush fund. What do you say to that?
We don't have slush fund. I don't know about slush fund.
I respect the fact that you cannot talk a lot about the Secret Service and all that. I guess that's the norm internationally.
Yeah.
But how do we know that you, Richard Mdluli, are not abusing the funds of the state? You are counted amongst the president's men. Are you?
That is rubbish.
Also the matter of General Boysen in KZN. He's not speaking very well of you.
No, that one is talking rubbish.
You are perceived to be very powerful, General, and you know, people who don't agree with you seem to pay the price. What is happening with the Oparamkhibe case?
No, I'm surprised because as I've said, I'm a person of people.
The Vredefort Dome incorporates the towns of Parys and Vredefort on the side of the Free State. It straddles the Northwest and Free State provinces, but 70% of it is in the Northwest. It is believed a huge meteorite hit the Earth in the region of 2023 million years ago. It resulted in what is now the Vredefort Dome. Tourist guide Christo Meyer says there are different theories of what really happened here many years ago. One university believes it was a meteorite impact, while another says it was a volcanic reaction. None of the universities, however, could back up their theories with sufficient evidence.
Today, it is accepted that it is a meteorite impact structure, and it is the largest and the oldest meteorite impact structure so far found on Earth. What makes it unique is the fact that the geological formations have been brought up to the surface.
The site attracts domestic and international geologists because of Vredefort Dome's unique geology. Rocks such as the granophyre are only found here. Until 1978, granite was mined in the area before mining operations ceased. The granite was shipped to Italy for cutting and polishing before being sold in Europe. The granite rocks were used for kitchen and bathroom tiling. Vredefort Dome's rock formations are a subject of study even to this day.
What has happened with the impact of the meteorite is some of the rocks have melted, some of the rocks have been shattered, some of them been shocked, some of it been thrown out and overturned. So a lot of things happened to the rocks. Because of the high level of erosion, these rocks have been exposed, and you can observe them. And without drilling a hole in the ground or without searching, you'll find these things lying on surface. You have to get permission from the landowner or be accompanied by a guide that takes you into the property and explain to you the impact and the effects of the impact and what you see. Because if you don't get somebody to explain that to you, you'll look at the environment, you'll look at the rocks, but you won't know what it all means.
The Vredefort Dome is also a popular destination for local school trips. While on these educational tours, learners get field experiences on specific subjects.
All of them here are grade 10 and 11 geography students. And I think one of our jobs is we must try and instill that love for geography in them. And to have this so close by to the school, it was the perfect opportunity.
I've learned a lot about my nation's heritage and how we got here and why we're here, and the things that have affected us that we didn't really pay much attention to. But we found out that a lot of things that happen in this world still affect us to this day. What I found fascinating about this area was how the land was still able to repair itself after such a great damage happened here.
A group of volunteers keep Parys Museum operational and dependent solely on donations for its survival. But for the Northwest University students, the museum is a great source of information. At the museum, they were given information on the entire Vredefort Dome, something they found exceptionally interesting.
I did bring some of my students here today to come and look at specifically old Afrikaans magazines. They are doing an assignment on how language changed over the years, and just to see if there's anything interesting that changed and then why it changed. So we also have the privilege of visiting the museum and seeing all the other history of Parys. Very interesting, especially the short lecture we received on the Koepel itself and the history of the dome. So that was very interesting.
We actually came here to do an assignment, and so it was very fun to come out of the classroom and to come and learn here, and we saw all the old books and the papers, and we also learned about the Vredefort Koepel Dome and saw lots of interesting things. It is very rich in culture, and it doesn't only start here in Parys. It actually, we saw now where the gold mines come from and how it came to where it is now, and why they mine and where they mine and how it looks like. So it was very, very interesting.
For those who want to let their hair down and enjoy life, the Vredefort Dome offers a wide range of adventures, from motorsport, quad biking and different types of games. The Vredefort Dome lies about 100 kilometers from the city of Johannesburg.
You can see the old granite quarry here at the back, and this is also where we do most of our activities like quad biking and abseiling and river rafting. It happens from this base camp.
At the Vaal River bordering the Free State and Northwest provinces, people come here for leisure. Almost everyone is catered for.
I would say an hour and a half drive, Joburg, is mostly where we get our clients from, and obviously locally. And they basically come for family breakaways, corporate events, year-end functions, and bachelor parties. And with that also comes the adventure side or team building.
The Vredefort Dome is not only the Northwest Province iconic landmark, but as a World Heritage Site, it is the nation's pride worthy of protection. However, its beauty and splendor ought to be shared with the world.
In Northwest have got beautiful mountains. We are here in the Vredefort Dome. Now we want to develop this area to be something that people can even see the clips of how that happened, because the geographic people will tell you, that people that deal with geography will tell you how that happened.
Although the land within the Vredefort Dome is privately owned, there are growing calls that the government must cooperate with the landowners to make tourism within the dome more accessible.
Art is a form of human communication that often transcends the literal.
Over the years, art has been used to empower individuals and groups to share their voices, creative vision, and beliefs to a larger social order. Today, we look at how art gave the youth of Winterveld a voice and another chance at life. Hello, my name is Gomolemo. Thank you for choosing us as your source of information this afternoon. Without any further delays, let's meet Norma and her Arts and Culture Group.
These are the dusty streets of Winterveld in Soshanguve, where people thought nothing good can come out of it. Norma Mahlango started a youth development project to change everyone's perception about her community. This is her story.
The community project of Golden Youth Club, it started in 2001. And then when it started, it didn't even have a name. I was just doing homeworks with them and motivating my peers to say, we come from Winterveld. Everyone says Winterveld, only people who are coming from Winterveld, they are thugs, and there's nothing good that it's coming from my area. When I grew up, it was like that. And then I attended school in Soshanguve, and then we were treated very badly. So I had the mindset that it's not going to happen to the upcoming generation after me. I wanted to change the mindset of the people in the area, Nguyo.
Mom Sarah tells us how her daughter was passionate about the youth from a young age.